After a long day, sometimes all I want is a warm, comforting bowl of noodles. And tonight, this is what I made for myself. This might look like just a bowl of noodles, but for me, it's the perfect way to end a long day in Vietnam. Before I could make my dinner, I needed to get a few fresh ingredients. So I grabbed my motorbike and headed to a nearby market. I was a little tired after the day, but honestly, I didn't mind going out. I actually enjoy these little evening trips. There's something really nice about riding around, stopping by the market, and choosing fresh ingredients for my dinner. When I got to the beef stall, I took my time choosing the meat. I always like to look carefully and find a nice piece because somehow, good ingredients make me feel more excited about cooking. After picking the one I liked, I paid for it and continued shopping. It was nothing special, just an ordinary evening in Vietnam, but I really enjoy these simple little moments. After getting the beef, I stopped by a few more stalls to pick up some fresh vegetables and a bundle of noodles. By the time I got back to the parking garage, my hands were full of little bags: beef, vegetables, noodles, and everything else I needed for dinner. I carried them all into the elevator and finally got a moment to breathe. It was just a simple trip to buy dinner, but somehow, coming home with all these fresh ingredients always gives me a little feeling of excitement. I knew a warm bowl of bún bò Huế was waiting for me upstairs. After getting everything I needed, I rode back home and parked my motorbike in the basement. By then, my hands were full of little bags: beef, vegetables, noodles, and all the other things I had picked up. I carried everything over to the elevator and waited for it to arrive. I was a little tired by this point, but I also felt happy knowing that I was finally heading home to cook. There's something really comforting about coming home with fresh ingredients and knowing that a warm dinner is waiting to be made. Now that I'm finally home, it's time to get cooking. I started by preparing everything I had just bought. I washed the beef, cleaned the lemongrass, picked through the vegetables, and prepared the onions. Then I blanched the noodles and got everything ready for the next step. Honestly, I really enjoy this part. The kitchen slowly comes alive, and somehow, the simple sounds of washing, chopping, and preparing ingredients make me feel more relaxed. After being out all evening, I finally felt like I could slow down and enjoy my own little time in the kitchen. I started with the vegetables. I stood by the kitchen counter and slowly picked through them, removing the parts I didn't need. It's such a simple little task, but I actually enjoy it. There's something peaceful about standing in my own kitchen, taking my time and getting everything ready for dinner. After a long day, I don't really need anything fancy. Sometimes these quiet moments are enough to make me feel relaxed and at home. Now comes one of my favorite parts. I brought a pot of water to a boil and added a few stalks of lemongrass. Then I blanched the beef before rinsing it clean. The moment the lemongrass hit the hot water, the kitchen started to smell so good. I honestly love that smell. Fresh, warm, and so comforting. Then I put the beef, lemongrass, and onions into the pot and let everything simmer slowly until the beef became tender. At this point, it may not look like much yet, but just wait. Something really delicious is slowly happening inside this pot. While the beef was slowly cooking, I had a few more things to prepare. I blanched the noodles, chopped the vegetables into small pieces, and sliced some onions to go with my bowl of bún bò Huế. Nothing complicated, just a few simple things I do almost without thinking. I actually enjoy these little preparations. The kitchen starts to feel warmer and more alive, and I can slowly see my dinner coming together. This is just an ordinary dinner for me, but I think that's what I love about Vietnamese food. Even on a normal evening at home, there are so many little things that make a meal feel special. After what felt like a long wait, the beef was finally tender. I opened the pot, and the aroma immediately filled the kitchen. I gave the broth a little taste and adjusted the seasoning until it tasted just right. Honestly, this is one of my favorite moments. That first taste when you realize all the little things you've been doing are finally coming together. Then I divided the noodles into the bowls and got everything ready. At this point, I was already getting really hungry. I could almost taste the dinner I had been waiting for all evening. And now, this is the moment I've been waiting for, putting everything together. I carefully arranged the tender slices of beef on top of the noodles, and honestly, just looking at all that beef made my mouth water. The slices were so soft and juicy, and there was something so satisfying about seeing them piled generously on top of the noodles. I had been in the kitchen for quite a while, and suddenly all that waiting felt completely worth it. Then came the best part. I slowly ladled the hot, fragrant broth over everything. The steam rose from the bowl, and the aroma filled the kitchen. Oh my goodness, look at this. A huge bowl of bún bò Huế, loaded with tender beef, hot noodles, fresh vegetables, and that rich, flavorful broth. This is exactly the kind of dinner that makes me forget how tired I was. I honestly couldn't wait any longer to sit down and eat. I added a generous handful of fresh herbs and some sliced onions on top. I love this final little step because it makes the bowl look so much more inviting. The fresh greens add a beautiful contrast to the rich broth and tender beef, and that familiar aroma instantly makes me feel like I'm having a proper Vietnamese dinner at home. Looking at this bowl, I suddenly realized that I had spent the whole evening preparing just one meal. But honestly, I didn't mind at all. Sometimes, taking your time to make something delicious for yourself is one of the nicest ways to end a long day. Finally, the best part of the evening, it's time to eat. I brought my steaming bowl of bún bò Huế over to my desk and carefully placed it right in front of my computer. Then I turned on a movie review I had been wanting to watch. This is actually one of my favorite little routines at home. I don't need anything fancy, just a delicious bowl of noodles, a good video to watch, and some quiet time for myself. I mixed everything together a little, picked up some noodles and a tender piece of beef, and took my first bite. Oh my goodness, it was so satisfying. The beef was soft and flavorful, the noodles were perfectly warm, and the rich, spicy broth brought everything together. After spending the whole evening shopping, preparing ingredients, and waiting for the beef to become tender, that first bite felt like a well-deserved reward. I just sat there, watching my movie review and slowly enjoying my dinner. Outside, the day was finally coming to an end. And inside my little home, I had a hot bowl of bún bò Huế, a movie to keep me company, and a quiet evening all to myself. Honestly, I couldn't ask for much more. And just like that, my little evening in Vietnam is coming to an end. It's funny how a simple dinner can take up almost the whole evening. I started by getting on my motorbike and going out to buy a few ingredients. Then I came home, washed and prepared everything, waited patiently for the beef to become tender, and finally made myself this big, comforting bowl of bún bò Huế. Nothing extraordinary happened tonight. I didn't go anywhere special. I didn't have a fancy dinner, and there was no big story to tell. It was simply me, at home, making dinner after a long day. But maybe these are the moments I appreciate the most. There's something really comforting about coming home, cooking something you love, and sitting down to enjoy it in your own little space. And I think this is what I want to share here. Not only the famous places, beautiful scenery, or special moments in Vietnam, but also the ordinary little things that make up everyday life. A trip to the market, a few bags of fresh ingredients, the sound of cooking in the kitchen, and a warm bowl of noodles at the end of the day. This may be just a normal evening for me, but I hope that for a few minutes, it felt like you were here with me, experiencing a small piece of everyday life in Vietnam. Thank you so much for spending this evening with me. I hope you enjoyed this little journey as much as I did. And if you'd like to see more simple moments, everyday food, and little pieces of life in Vietnam, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, enjoy your evening, and good night from Vietnam.